Hey, hello. Yeah, hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. We're going to get started on the stream today with the Peru. I'm trying to make some more progress on this guy. Let me just grab my tablet. As you guys pop in, let me know how things look, sound. Everything's going okay. I'm going to see if I can move my references here. Hello, Sorian. How's it going? Okay, let's take a look at where we are. All right. So I've been thinking over the past week, kind of like where I want to go, or like what I want to try and get done today. And I think what would probably be most beneficial is, so I want to start actually like refining the forms and getting them to a nice place. So I think what would be a good place to start would probably be the face again. Kind of do a secondary pass on the face and refine some areas here, like make sure the shapes are right in the eye. There are some things that I wanted to figure out about this nasal area here. Just the shape of the skull overall. What else? Kind of the shape of the teeth as well, and like the way they're placed and the way they're pointed. What else could we do? If I get far enough, I might merge down all of these pieces together. As far as the head goes, that way I can start actually adding, like blending in these forms so they're not so cut off and easily identifiable here. So I think that's probably what I'll do, right? I will work a little bit more on the skull and like try to solidify some of those shapes. Make sure all the proportions are, like double check everything, make sure all the proportions are right, all the forms of the bones are looking right. And then, yeah, we'll just go from there, I suppose. Where are we? Where is the skull here? Is that I want to have this skull kind of be like, what would you call it? It's kind of like a landmark for me. Like it's kind of a framework, and I want to be able to rely on it pretty well, like pretty accurately. So that way, as I'm working on the creature later on down the line, I can always refer back to it as like a reliable piece of reference. So I can kind of keep myself sort of locked into a certain proportion, you know. So I'm going to start in on that. We'll just see how far I get today. Takle, I don't know if I can say your name. Takle Angeliquez. I'll try. Welcome. What is going on? Oh, I turned off my actual ability to sculpt with this tool. Yeah, so how's everyone's week been? Did any of you So Halloween was this week, right? So do any of you like celebrate Halloween or try to do anything interesting for Halloween? I'm a like, I really like Halloween. It was probably, I would say it's probably one of my favorite holidays growing up. You know, that's when everyone gets to dress up and have fun with costumes and stuff. It was always a really fun holiday for me because my grandparents used to decorate their house like pretty, like we kind of went all in on the Halloween decorations. Like we made I remember one year we made a pretty cool looking scarecrow guy, like to sit in front of the, like on the front porch, so trick-or-treaters would see him as they came up. And he looked pretty cool. He had this old my grandpa used to work on a railroad, and he had this old, like I guess they were like coveralls or something like that, and he let us fill that up with like leaves so we could get the shape like filled out. And then we had this pumpkin head. It wasn't a real pumpkin. I think it was like one of those pumpkins that you get that can, like, you can light it up, because we wanted it to be able to get plugged in and light up. So we put that pumpkin head on and some funny gloves and stuff. It looked pretty cool. I think there are a few kids that walked by it and like they were afraid that it was like an actual person inside. So they didn't want to get too close because they thought they'd get a jump scare. Wild Nugget coming along very nicely. Thank you. Can't wait to see the textures. Yeah, I hope I can get to some of the detail sculpting on the face today. There's some, so I have a friend who's a paleontologist, and I talked to him a bit about Peru, and he gave me some information on what I could possibly do with this like nasal opening here, as far as like how it could be reconstructed, because this this area is pretty unique to Purussaurus. Like I personally have never seen a crocodilian with this sort of feature in its skull. So it's pretty interesting, but at the same time, like because it's so unique, there's not really a good reference necessarily for like how it would have looked like in life, like a restoration of it. So that part to me is a little bit tricky, and I want to make sure I get it to look somewhat believable. There was one cool find that I had during the week of I can show you really quick. I think it's called a broad-nosed caiman. I think that's what they're called. It's actually right. Yeah, broad-snouted caiman. But if you see, it actually has this shape here. And I'm not sure. So Purussaurus is supposed to be closely related to caimans. It is considered a caiman, like a giant caiman. So I'm kind of wondering if this is like a shared feature, or maybe it's like a case of like convergent evolution or something, where this caiman, modern caiman, has evolved a similar like feeding strategy and it's adapted its skull similarly, or if there's more like relation there. but that shape to me is really cool, and I want to, it's like the closest thing I can get, right, to what the Peru might have looked like. So I think I'm going to try to approach that nasal area like this. But also, like, just look at this reference. Like, I think this particular reference here, it looks, to me, looks really, really cool. Like, it's got a lot to work with. Oh, this is a cool reconstruction that I found too. Where the heck? Where am I now? I like snapped to a different area. This should be up here. Yeah. This is a cool reconstruction. I unfortunately don't know the artist who did it. But looking down here, what I want to incorporate, like, again, the nasal area, and then this like shape here, this like little pointed arch to the eye is really cool. And just the textures that are going on all around here are really nice. So I want to see if I can incorporate some of that into the Peru. And I got some more reference images of all these guys and some, this is a top-down diagram of what that looks like. So you can see right there. It's a pretty interesting shape. So we'll see if we can do some of that stuff today. I hope I can get to it. Start getting into some detail and refinement. Nugget, gotta make do with what you can work with. Won't always know exactly what dinosaurs look like, but it can always try to get a close representation. Yeah, exactly. CJ, so is the Purussaurus going to be a playable or is it an AI? I think that might be a question for Islander. If Islander, are you in the chat? He'll be able to answer gameplay questions more accurately than I would. Let's see. The caiman is the closest relative to the Purussaurus. Yeah, I do love. I have a cladogram or like a phylogeny in my reference, I think. Right here. Oh no. Give that back. So you can see here, these are caiman A, and Purussaurus is right here. And I think modern caimans are down here someplace, I think. Let me see what these names are. Caiman. Let me see if any of these names pop up in this. Yeah, down here. That's where they are. So that's basically the close. It's kind of crazy to think because caimans are very small today. So to think that one of them grew like this gigantic, it's pretty interesting. But yeah, I'll stop talking for a little bit. Start making some progress on this this model. Make sure back face masking is on. Playable. Okay, so it's a playable creature. Yeah, that'll be fun to actually play as a crocodilian. Like maybe be able to like lurk in the water and like jump out and surprise people. That would be really cool. I actually haven't played I haven't played like a play as an animal game in a long time. Man, I can't even think what it was that I played. It's always like been a really cool idea to me, where you have player controlled creatures in the environment, and you can play as both the creature and humans. So it's pretty exciting that this game allows you to do that. So I want to make, just looking from the side, the shape isn't the best right now. This is too pronounced. Yeah, I was talking about, sorry, I got off track a little bit. I was talking about Halloween. Yeah, it's always been a pretty cool holiday for me. I like all the movies and stuff, and of course, like Halloween associated with costumes and like creatures heavily. It's, you know, scary movies and stuff like that. I've always enjoyed the holiday. I think my sister, though, is a bigger fan, like a bigger Halloween. She gets really serious about it. She had a lot of trick-or-treaters come to her house this year. We didn't get any on our end because our house is like not a very obvious house. Like it's set back from the street. It's like a pretty private, like little. It's like tucked away, basically. So not a lot of people actually know there's a house back here. So we don't get a lot of trick-or-treaters. But nobody bothers us, really. So that's good. Okay. I might need to load up this reference, so let me save that out. And then I'm going to import it as a... I actually need to know where it exported to. Purussaurus skull. We go to textures, we go to import, and then I want this one. Oh, great. Okay. So that is the first crash of ZBrush. And you guys get to witness it live on stream. I think I mentioned that ZBrush likes to crash last stream. I have no idea why it crashed with that. I'm just opening up a reference image, but you know, there you go. That's what happens. So when that happens, we kind of just we either have to hope that there's a save, like an auto save before it actually screwed up, or we have to just keep saving regularly. And this is not the right file. This is the right file. So yeah, it is what it is. Fortunately, I hadn't been working on the skull for very long. Before that happened, so there we go. Perspective off. Yeah, it's just kind of one of those things you got to deal with when it comes to ZBrush. I wish it didn't happen, but I wish it didn't happen as often. Usually I don't like, it's not a biggest problem. It's never catastrophically impacted my work. Like, I've never there's some people that have they've had nightmare scenarios, right, where they've done a ton of work and then they have a crash, and then they completely have to restart a model or something. Unfortunately, I have never had that happen to me, but I have lost some work. But, you know, if I've sculpted it once, I can sculpt it again. And I just won't, I don't think maybe that image was too high res, and that's why it freaked ZBrush out. I don't know. Who knows? We're just gonna eyeball it for a little bit, although I don't necessarily like to do that. But that's what I kind of have to do right now, because I don't want to risk uploading that image again and then having it crash again. That'll be annoying. If you see me turning my head over, it's because I have my references on this other screen to my left. That's a pain to deal with. It can be, yeah. At this point, I've just gotten so used to it. I guess it might not be a good thing to get so used to that, right? Because we should kind of demand a little bit higher, expectations from a industry standard sculpting program that so many movies and video games and stuff rely on. It shouldn't be so unstable, right? But unfortunately, kind of is what it is. Same thing with Photoshop. I've noticed Photoshop is kind of, I don't know. Ever since they kind of went to this subscription-based thing, Photoshop has been a little bit buggy. Excuse me. Yeah, it's been a little bit buggy, and it never really used to be that way. I remember using a version of Photoshop before Adobe created the Creative Cloud stuff, and that program never crashed on me. Nothing really happened with that program. I think it was Photoshop. What was it? Photoshop. It was the last version of Photoshop before they started doing the subscription stuff, so I can't remember exactly what it was. But yeah, that program never crashed on me. But as soon as like they started doing the subscription thing, I've noticed like little bugs popping up here and there, and it has crashed. So I don't know what the deal is. Like maybe subscription based stuff, like it's hard to keep like the quality bar up or something, or maybe just stuff gets through the cracks a little bit more. No clue, no idea. So I'm just changing, I'm comparing my shapes to the shapes of the skull and making sure that they are pretty close to what I'm seeing in the reference material. There's some subtle stuff that is not exactly where it needs to be. So, one other cool thing that was going on this week is I got to play the Monster Hunter Wilds beta, which I was really looking forward to. I had a really good time with it, actually. I was playing last night with a couple friends. Probably a little bit too late, honestly. I should have gotten to bed much earlier. I'm kind of feeling it right now. But it was a good time. I really liked what they had in the demo so far. So I'm getting really excited for the full release in February. There's just so much cool like detail in the world, and the monster designs have all been really interesting to me so far. The armor designs are really nice so far. Yeah, nothing that they've shown from the new game so far has been like, disappointing or like off or anything like that. I mean, sometimes in Monster Hunter games, there's always like one or two designs or like environments or like weapons or armor designs that are kind of, meh. But so far, this one has been really, really cool. Just looking at some photos of the skull. Making sure I'm getting this sort of roundness right. And there's like, there's this dip here at the front of the, I guess this nasal area that I want to make sure I get right. Yeah, from the side you can't really see this like eye socket area. So I need to make sure that is not as high as it is. I think I built it up too much because I was trying to match the height of the neck. So if that's changing, then a lot of this stuff needs to change. Maybe this eye position is fine. This thing definitely needs to move. That. And the area that it's covering, I think, is going to be smaller because I actually want a little bit of that dished out part to be visible. So that way I'm matching some of that reference that I was showing earlier. Something kind of like this. And just because I'm paranoid now, I'm going to save. I don't want another crash to happen and have to redo that for a third time. Let me look at some of this broad nose. Broad snouted caiman. Now you gotta remember that name. I'm just gonna indicate some detail that I see from here. I'm not gonna get into it just yet, and I don't really want it to look so what's the word, like repetitive. I think this area is probably, there's always certain areas in a sculpt that are like, I can tell are going to give me like, I'm going to be fiddling with it to the very end, you know. And this area might be one of those. Just getting this eye set in here. This neck area needs to go lower just a bit. Something like that. These can go a little bit flatter so they fit in that space. Okay. This area needs to get filled in here. Well, it would actually be, I think, the interior, like there'd be the nostril openings here maybe on the inside of the mouth. I'd have to double check on that. Something like this. I think this this clay brush is going to be really nice for building up some of that initial detail on the surface. So I'm going to keep working with that. And I'm going to pick up this reference that I liked. Try to incorporate some of those qualities in here right now. Autosave. That makes me a bit paranoid too sometimes, because ZBrush likes to crash after autosave sometimes. And autosaves always happen in the worst times. Seems like I'll be in the middle of a pretty complicated operation or something that's very makes the computer think really hard, and then there'll be an autosave in the middle of that, which is not good. I'm just looking at the skull. As I'll show you guys what I'm looking at right now. Maybe I'll just keep this up. I'm fighting with like my layout. I'm like, should I keep this stuff on screen and block part of the UI? Where is this? Always on top. So I'm noticing some of the shapes, or trying to notice some of these shapes. I'm trying to incorporate those. The strange thing is, so like in this reference, this back portion of the skull rises above the like plane of the skull, like this plane. But in the diagrams, that portion doesn't show beyond the plane of the skull. So it's kind of strange. It seems like I'm gonna have to pick and choose what I follow. Then there's other like slopes, like I'm noticing this kind of slope. I kind of wish I had like a good front view of the skull. Let me look and see. See if I can find something from the front just a little bit more, so I can gauge how the skull actually wraps around and down on the sides. This might be okay. That one. It's not exactly what I needed. Let's see if I find anything else. The other thing that's kind of you have no idea where this skull is, or like how much of it is. I suppose we have majority of the skull, so maybe a lot of it's not reconstructed. But it would be nice to know where this skull is, and maybe I can find some extra images. I might need to look that up later. Okay, so this one's a little bit better, even though it looks like it's a pretty old photo. So I'm looking at this slope here down from the side, like this. And then I'm also noticing this dip right there. So that's what I want to try to incorporate into the skull here. Maybe you can look at it from a similar angle. So what's interesting too is that the shape. It's got like a arc here. And that's something that I don't currently have in mind. So I would want to change that. Something like this. Slightly. I think this is probably okay. These sides are a little bit, I think the skull is just a tiny bit too boxy. And I need to round out the snout just a little bit. And we can get these shapes working better. Will the Puru have integumentary sensory organs for detail? Integumentary sensory organs. Are you talking about the little like the sensory pits on the mouth? Is that what you're talking about? King Minmi, hello. Hi. Mini Zepwolf, good morning. Hi, how are you doing? Welcome, welcome. We are just working on some shapes for the skull. Trying to get this refined up so I can start detailing, because I want to start digging into the details on this guy soon. Because I modified this arch here on the teeth, I have to move these teeth now. Move them up, and I'm gonna have to make them. Slightly thinner, I think. So we'll kind of finesse that when we are able to get to it, but I just want to make sure the major arc there is represented. I want to come back to the skull. Try and get a similar camera angle to this. And the thing that I got to keep in mind as well is that there's distortion, perspective distortion, because of the camera lens. I have no idea what camera lens whoever took this photo was using. So, yeah, I'm just kind of doing the best I can right here. There's like a way to, where is it? Change the camera, supposedly. I don't know what's happening that it doesn't seem to adjust. I don't know if it's worth it though. I'll just kind of do my best here. That's one of the reasons why it's so important to have multiple sources of reference from like as many angles as possible, so that you can account for like discrepancies like that, because yeah, it's basically like checking and rechecking constantly. like widths, heights, depths. Just making sure everything is kind of looking right. And slowly but surely, like things fall into place, but it takes a while. Wild nugget, yeah, that's what I'm talking. Okay, yeah, those sensory pits in the muzzle. Yeah, I'm gonna incorporate those for those of you who are wondering. See if I can find a good reference of it in here. But they have these little like dimples in the skin on the snout, and it helps them sense like movement. And I suppose I don't know exactly what they sense. I know it's related to movement. I'm not sure if it's kind of like sharks where they sense, like, I don't think so. I don't think it's like electromagnetic stuff like sharks do. I think it's more like pressure changes in the water. But yeah, it's to help them catch food, catch prey, catch fish, stuff. So I will be incorporating those little details, as many details as I'm able to incorporate. I will. Onyx movement and pressure change. Cool, thank you. Yeah. You find that sort of adaptation in a lot of predators and like marine animals that live in like murky water. I think like what are they called? It depends. It kind of can vary on like what the form they exactly take. Like some animals will I think what is it, like a platypus, have similar sort of sensory organs in their beak. It's pretty interesting, like the way different animals kind of figure out similar solutions to the same problem, but it can take a totally different shape. So let's see. I'm going to keep on adjusting these shapes until I'm satisfied with them. This is like the phase of the sculpt where like it's very nitpicky, I suppose is the word. Doing lots of tiny adjustments that kind of add up over time to bigger ones across the board on the sculpt. It can take a while. I'm trying to give, trying to do my best to get it to move along and not be so precious about everything, because it is something that I can modify later if it's not exactly right, but I'm starting to feel more happy about the way everything is starting to feel, though. Especially with these last few adjustments here on the top of the skull. Because I think the skull shapes, especially here in the back, weren't correct. Or weren't like They weren't where I wanted them to be. Now that I got that a little bit more sorted, I feel better. This is still not correct here though. I need to change this. Just checking the time as well. Mini Zep. I learned ZBrush in school, and the amount of subtools you must have gives me anxiety. Oh man. I mean, this isn't, you should see one of my files for like the stuff I work on for Beasts of the Mesozoic. This isn't even like, this is like a majority of this stuff I can delete. Some of this is trash. It's not even stuff that I'll be using later. I just haven't cleaned it up yet. But like some of the amount of subtools that I've had in a file for some of the action figures that I've worked on is ridiculous. Like there's a lot. Because there's so many. First, there's just the forms of the actual creature that I'm making, but then there's all the subtools that are involved in like making the cuts into the creature to make the shapes that I want. And there's oftentimes those are made out of multiple shapes. And then there's like all the joints, the ball joints, the little keys and stuff that are like incorporated into the mesh to like make things lock together. Yeah, it's crazy. I always try to be as it's like the same thing like in Photoshop, like managing layers, right? I try to be as clean as I can and like do my best to label stuff. There will be times during the process that things kind of get away. Like it kind of ebbs and flows, right? There's like it'll get complex enough, and the layers or like the subtools will stack up to a point where I'm just like, okay, I need to stop right now and like clean it up a little bit, and then I'll clean it, get it back to a manageable state, and then it'll kind of build up again, and I'll clean again. Kind of goes back and forth. The problem with the other, not the problem, it's just the nature of it. The nature, the nature of it. The thing with the action figure stuff is that a lot of those subtools that are like accumulating in the stack are actually essential. Like they're usable somewhere else down the line. So I can't really get rid of them. And it just bloats the subtool count. So that's kind of the just the workflow is different, but it does cause a lot of buildup of subtools in here. I think those are probably the most complex models that I have to do, or like I have ever worked on. There have been like, I don't think a video game model has ever gotten that complex. There are some models like stuff that has feathers that can get pretty complex because the feathers can like, there's just a lot of them. And they can stack up pretty, pretty much too, but they're nowhere near the amount that those other files have. I hear you working non-destructively is a must. Yeah, for sure. In some ways, I'm kind of leaning toward, as far as like the action figure stuff goes, I'm kind of leaning more towards doing a lot of like block out in Blender, because Blender just has a nice, kind of a nicer way of organizing stuff. And like the booleans work a little bit, in my opinion, a little bit more smoothly in there. So like I can have a big folder. I can have folders specifically for certain things, and like the booleans can work. Like I can visualize things easier, basically, in Blender. Like the booleans in ZBrush do a good job of like making the form that I need, but sometimes to like represent a boolean in the screen while I'm working is kind of tough. And especially like when I'm presenting stuff to the client, like sometimes I'll have a model that's cut up, but I don't want to commit the cut. I just want to like preview it and send them stuff for approval. But the way booleans work for some reason in Blender, I mean in ZBrush, I can't do like presentation sheets, because I like to do quick ones like this. Like turn perspective off. I'll do this for video game models too, but like if I wanted to send something off for approval, I'd show multiple views of it to the client, and I'd say like, does this look good? Any changes you need? Stuff like that. But with booleans active, you can't really do that, because it like screws up the display, which is kind of annoying. But yeah, the woes of a 3D artist. Check the side view again. So this on here too, it's happening. I don't know what's up with this area is raised above the skull plane as well. So I think I'm just going to do that, because it seems to happen in multiple references, and this diagram here is the only one that doesn't show that. So I'm gonna trust. I think I'm gonna trust the photo a little bit more than the diagram in that respect. Royal Lancers. I hope that's how I say your name. Hey, how's it going? Welcome to the stream. We are working on Purussaurus skull right now. I'm trying to get this. I'm trying to get the forms in a better spot so I can detail things a little bit more accurately. Lots of progress recently. Keep up the good work. Thank you. Thanks for the insight. Know what you mean. Going from Maya to ZBrush was a shock for me. Oh yeah, I can't imagine. I have worked in Maya like briefly. I did like I did some environment work for. I was trying to learn how to do environment work just so I could know how to do it. I took a course on it. And we built a lot of our like foliage assets and stuff in Maya. And it wasn't like, I didn't mind Maya. It was fine. But I could imagine like, so I had worked a bit in Blender. So I was familiar with Blender a bit. So that familiarity with Blender kind of helped me in Maya. But I can't really, going from Maya to something like ZBrush would be pretty interesting, to say the least. In some ways I'm kind of glad that I learned ZBrush first, because many of the other like programs are a little bit more standardized. So it's easier to like jump into one and kind of figure out what's going on with some of the other ones. But yeah, that would be a little rough. Did you go, Minizep, did you go to like an art college, or was it like a different sort of course, like an online course that you took? MGYT, when can we expect Purussaurus to come out? Oh man. I don't know. I have to finish the model first. Model has to get finished. You got to do textures. Then once I'm done doing all of that stuff, it's got to be passed on for rigging and animation. So it could probably be a while. But hopefully, seeing this process as it goes through is, interesting, and can kind of get people excited to play once it is out. Okay. So I do feel better about these shapes. I'm just taking it in a little bit, trying to see what I could do. Munizep. I went to college for film and game. Was heavily focused on Maya. Yeah, I can imagine, yeah. I went to school for illustration. So that's actually what my major was. I learned ZBrush pretty much on my own. I mean, there was tutorials online. There was nowhere near as many tutorials on ZBrush back then as there is now. So it was a little bit tough. 3D printing, like that was my focus. That's the whole reason why I learned ZBrush. And resources on 3D printing were even more limited. So that was pretty rough experience. And it was made even more difficult by the fact that I was kind of rushing to get my grad show done. I should not have done that to myself. Got a link to Patreon in the chat if anyone wants to take a look. Help out the development of the game. The weird thing again here is that the back of the head is much boxier in this ref. And it's wider. It's wider at the back of the eye, and then it narrows to the neck just a bit. Something like that. So that would make this more pointy. Something like that. Okay. One thing. So from this reference, I do kind of want to incorporate this sort of feature in the eye because I think it looks cool. I think it's an interesting breakup in the silhouette. Like if you were to look at the head from the side, I think this sort of like what's it called? Pointed element is really nice. It has like an aggressive feel to it, which is good too, because I do want this guy to feel pretty aggressive. Pretty dangerous. So I'm gonna put this in here just really quickly. Probably adjust it as we go even more, but I'll put it there as placeholder to remind myself. Move the eye up here just a little bit. So this I'm going to kind of modify this piece of the mesh to start filling in some of this soft tissue here. So there's this, what I'm looking at right here. You can tell where this bone is on the caiman. This is the bone. And then this element, this is what I'm incorporating, this area right here. I actually gotta, I'm gonna move that, delete that, so I can actually see what I'm, excuse me. So I can actually see what I'm detailing here. Okay. So I'm going to start doing some initial details on the face here. It's just like, that's a good way to describe it. It's easier to see on, I think I have some albino crocs and alligators and stuff. Like, so there's no like scales necessarily on the head. A lot of it is sort of like lumpy, bumpy texture, kind of pitted texture. So that's what I'm going to start trying to block in here. So it is going to look a little bit lumpy. Hopefully it looks purposeful and not messy. That's kind of the tough balance that I have to hit with crocodilians in general. Getting the right feel to their texture, especially on the head, can be a little bit challenging. And I think what I'm going to do, I'm debating duplicating this skull. I might as well do it just to be safe. I'm going to duplicate the skull, rename. One is going to be the skull, and then the other is going to be like the skin. I'm just going to leave that named for now. So if I dig in too far, and I start hitting like the bone, then I know that I've gone too deep in the detail, and I should pull back a little bit. And I'm just for like, just to visualize this, I'm gonna fill this with a bone color, just so I know if I'm sculpting and I hit that underlying surface that I'm kind of digging in a little bit too much. Hold on, is this the right one? What did I fill? What did I just do? Did I like confuse myself? This is the one that I want to be colorized. Color fill object, and this is the one that I need to stay the same. We're just gonna use this because it's kind of green and it might feel like reptile skin temporarily. What do I use to bake normals? I use ZBrush. I just export the normal directly from the model itself. Because I mean, to me, I don't know. It's easy because I'm just exporting at least those initial maps from one source. I don't have to like export the model and then, you know, import the high poly and low poly and then bake in a separate app. I feel like the texture quality looks good, and then at the same time, like I feel like there's, so in order to get the high poly into a different program like Substance Painter or even like XNormal, or if I wanted to bake in Blender, I would have to decimate the model, because I can take I can take this model to like, I'll probably end up being like 40 million polys or something like that by the end of it. And I can bake all that detail down. But if I have to decimate it, I'd have to decimate it to like around probably like 1 million or something like that to get into another application. Maybe like, I don't know, maybe Substance Painter could handle a bit more. But yeah, I feel like there's like a degradation a little bit of the quality because the decimation is going to triangulate everything. And I'd rather not do that. but I'm not like I don't know, I'm not like a tech artist. I'm just kind of, I'm basing my like workflow and like judgment on how I do things, as far as like baking and stuff, just based on like you know, visually, does it look good? Am I getting the quality that I want? And as long as I am, then I'm pretty happy. If I could, it might be, it's been a while since I tried baking things out in like XNormal. It's been a while since I baked anything out in Substance. So I don't know. I kind of have been curious as to like, you know, did those tools get any better? Is it worth trying a different workflow sort of thing? But the stuff that I do right now is reliable. Like I know the workflow, I know the way things react and the results I can expect to get. So if I'm working on a project for somebody, I tend to just you know, I'm going to use what I know, rather than try something new. So I haven't had a chance to like experiment with those tools again. I hope I'm on the right mesh. There we go. What is going on? I think it's getting confused. Or am I have something masked. There we go. Oh, it's because I'm not on the right mesh. Yeah, there we go. I'm starting to indicate some of these little, I guess, kind of scales. They're just little lumps here on the back of the eye. With 40 million, do you really have a choice? Choice for what? Like what I bake the stuff out as? Like what I bake things out from? Well, no, I suppose not. That's what I mean. Like, there's no other application that's going to be able to handle that amount of polygons. That's why a lot of people will decimate their model and take it into a different app. But I don't really like to do that because I think it degrades the quality. I mean, there's plenty of people who still do that because they prefer to bake out all their stuff from like XNormal or Substance or whatever, what have you. So that I'm not saying that's like bad. If those are the tools that people want to use, and I've seen plenty of people get really good results with those. It's just I prefer to do it that way. Yeah, I try not to jump from try to use the program, a single program for as much as I can before I have to jump over to something else. So I don't really like going back and forth between things so much. We have about 30 minutes. I'm going to inflate this a little bit just to fill out that space. Go back to the skull. Go back to green. Just make the eyes a little bit darker. So there's just a difference there. Maracui. I didn't really look at it before, but damn, the croc's eyes. The croc's head is really flat. Yeah. It is. It's like a big boat. Here at the super, super flat. That's kind of one of the things that I've been keeping an eye on. If I look at the skull again, like I do got that. I do have some of that flatness. The other thing that is kind of hard to tell with these photos is like, so I'm seeing this, right? The top edge. And I think I was assuming that this edge was like flat, like I was seeing like a flat plane, you know, facing me. But I think what's happening is there's like there's a curve here. Like it's going like, you know, instead of going like this, super boxy, it's going like round. And I'm seeing this side. So there's a curve coming down towards me. The problem is I don't know necessarily how fast it slopes down. You know what I mean? So that is something that I'm trying to find. I try to find different references for that. Like this is helpful. There's another one. This one is helpful. So that's kind of what I was looking at. So I think I have a decent representation of that here. But yeah, it's always kind of freaky, right? Because like comparing the model in one view to a photo and then working on that photo, and then you switch to another view that you previously worked on to like check things, and now things are different, right? Because you adjusted it in the other view. And it's like, it can be a little bit unnerving because it's like, did I just screw up my whole model? by trusting this reference for too long, kind of thing. So that's why I have so many references. And it's just kind of something I have to gradually work through. This one actually isn't that bad. There have been models that there have been species of dinos that I've worked on before that just had so little information. Like there's only like maybe 1 or 2 images of the skull, as opposed to like, I have quite a few images of the skull here. So it's like, it's really kind of hard to gauge with those types of projects. So it's not so bad here. It's just there's a few different things that I need to keep an eye out for. So I'm going to start kind of blocking in some of these shapes on the snout. Like I want this sort of, this type of texture, like slightly kind of lumpy, sort of dimpled. And then I probably won't get to those little sensory organs or like sensory pits today. Those are going to be kind of like a final touch sort of detail. But I am going to keep them in mind for later. So I don't want to go too crazy with this yet, but I'm just going to indicate some potential detail that they could have. This is a pretty helpful reference here too, because it shows like how the surface of the skin of the face isn't like, it's not scales in the sense that I think I'm kind of used to. It's almost like this comes from an actual, it's from a paper. I forget what the paper's called, but it's like analyzing how these shapes form on the face. And it's actually kind of like, it's not like the way scales form on the rest of the surface of the skin. It's actually like kind of like a cracking, at least that's the kind of the way they described it in the paper. It's like the cracking of the surface of the skin, similar to, because the way that these shapes form or similar to the way, like if you look at cracks in like asphalt or something, the way those form, it's very similar. Let me show you. So like this sort of shapes, these kind of shapes. You can see how similar they are. That's kind of what's going on there. So I'm kind of trying to block that in right now. I've actually used this sort of the cracked asphalt textures on crocodile faces, just to like get a I guess like a quick work flow to the cracks, or like to the separations, and it works out pretty well. I might do that again here. Marakui, you didn't manage to find some front photo to get it. Okay, yeah, I showed I showed one. With Peru, you can also look at pictures of modern crocs. Yeah, definitely. So I'm looking at crocs and caimans. I don't know if you saw the reference that I was talking about earlier, but this is a cool little caiman that I found. I called a broad snout caiman. And there's a lot of characteristics in here that I kind of want to bring over. There's one reference that I really like, this one here, that I think is really cool. As a matter of fact, this is pretty nice looking. Maybe I want to try and get a similar feel. I don't know if I like quite so much these bigger lumpy shapes here. I'm gonna break it up just a little bit more. Some of this, I mean, some of this is gonna go away for sure as I get more specific. I'm just trying to visualize just a tiny bit what it could look like. Yeah, caimans can kind of look a little cute, right? Just the proportions. They're like they got a little bit of a puppy dog quality to them. I'm gonna try to not make this guy look like a big puppy dog. But maybe like, I don't know, if we have like growth, right? Maybe the baby Purus could look a little bit cuter. That might be fun. Can you show the whole body for a second, Mr. Yeet? Yeah. This is the whole guy. So far. I'm actually gonna turn the dimming off. Thank you, Mr. Yeet. So that's kind of, it's got the general feel that I am going for. This is going to be built up by a lot of like back and forth and layers. So I wouldn't expect this to be the like the be all end all of it. I'm just kind of building up the shapes. It might be, so I'm kind of close to that point where I should probably merge down all of these different shapes into one editable mesh instead of going between like these multiple subtools. I'm almost there. So I can kind of feel that like there's always that point in a sculpt where I can kind of feel like it's fighting me a little bit, like just the fact that I have to jump between I have to remember to jump between subtool to subtool so I can sculpt on it. It kind of interrupts the flow of like the detailing or like the sculpt. And once I start feeling that kind of push back, I'm like, okay, it's probably since I'm subconsciously like starting to feel that sort of kind of fight with the mesh, it's probably a good idea to go ahead and merge things. It is kind of scary though, because it's like it's a little bit of like a commitment, because you're like, there's a certain amount of flexibility that it's like, you know, if you're working in Photoshop and you have multiple layers, and you know, on one layer you have like a detail, and on the other layer you have another detail, and there's flexibility in keeping them separate, but once you merge them you lose a bit of that. It's not like a huge deal, but it's still a little bit scary once you commit to that adjustment, I should say. So I'm almost there. I can definitely start feeling that that's starting to happen. It's also just going to make the model feel better, you know. Overall it's going to flow together a lot nicer. You're not going to have these like stark differences between different sections of the model. It'll feel more integrated as we start merging stuff down, so that's going to be nice. Would it be able to swim like a croc? Yeah, I'm assuming so. I mean, that's up to the animators to determine like exactly how it swims, but yeah, it's got the body plan of a you know, the general body plan of a crocodilian, so would probably have swam the same. It's going to be really cool to see it swimming. And then once it gets into the game and all the water effects and stuff, seeing it swim underwater is going to be really fun. This matte cap is actually really nice for showing some of this detail. even though it's like kind of placeholdery. Will he do little spines on the back of his neck? Not spines. They're going to be big, like plates. So you can see them here on this reference. They're like kind of circular. Right here. There we go, right here. These guys, they're not necessarily like spiny looking. They're more like armor. So like something like this, and then oh, that is not the brush that I wanted. They usually have like a ridge down the center of them. I do think that I'm gonna make them a little bit more aggressive shaped, so like they won't be a lot of crocodilians have like very kind of rounded osteoderms. There is this type of caiman, I can't remember what it's called exactly. I should find some, I will find some references for it, but I want more like a aggressive shape like this. Something more pointed at the top. I gotta be kind of careful that it doesn't go too dragony. But you know, something in that vein. And then, you know, it's gonna be carried down across the back. So you can kind of get a feel for how that's gonna work. But yeah, I just haven't had a chance to get to it right yet. This guy has kind of it happening, like you can see it here, but I would want it to go like a little bit more aggressive, you know, that sort of thing. The Roman Empire. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. What is uh-oh? Let's see. Where are we going? Where are we going? I don't have a lot of time left. So let's see, what can I do? This is a good reference too, like this area on the snout. I think I'm just gonna, we're gonna kind of like finish out this stream with just a little bit more like detailing and stuff on the face. Just a little kind of blocking in of secondary forms and stuff. And then we'll call it good for today. Let's see. I'm trying to think of what I could do, maybe, because I still have to get to the lower jaw. Unfortunately, the lower jaw is not going to take nearly as long as this upper portion here. So I'm not too worried about that. I should be able to knock that out pretty fast. Maybe next stream. Then we can get to something a little bit more. Well, not that this, I mean, the face is the focal point of the whole thing, basically, but I'm really wanting to start to see like the whole thing kind of come together. I'm kind of being a little bit impatient, to be honest. It's kind of the way I get at this stage where like I want to block in everything, but I kind of can't yet. But I think maybe next time what I'll try to do is go for the jaw, like work that up some more, possibly merge down all of the head together, see if I can get some, like, try to unify stuff. And then what's really going to be fun, for me at least, is maybe if we can get into, I'm going to try to get into some of the details on the neck. Like, even just that little experiment that I did right there of getting all these, like, you know, these things down. That's, you know, that's even starting to make it feel a lot nicer. So I want to get into some of that soon. So I hope that will be interesting for you guys to watch as well, because that's I feel like that's really, like, the mouth is a big part of it, but even more so, like, the scales on the croc body are some of what really starts to make it come together, I think. And I think once I have some of those in, at least, or at least the bigger ones, I'm gonna feel a lot better about the way the overall sculpt is looking, and I can start really dialing in some stuff. Because in a lot of ways, I feel like I'm still kind of trying to find things, like still feeling things out. What are you thinking with ears? Just a little hole for something different? No. They wouldn't have like a little hole like around here. Normally, like with dinosaurs and stuff, they have a little tympanum here on the side. But I believe their ears are located up here, actually, in this area. And it might be the part of this little slit that happens here. I can double check that. But yeah, there's not going to be like a visible little hole or anything where the ear would be. Yeah, I think you're talking about Deinosuchus. I have a size comparison here on this chart, I think. This. So Puru's on top here, Deinosuchus, and then Sarcosuchus. So yeah, the Dino and the Puru seem to be fairly similar. I don't know. I don't know what the size estimates are exactly because they kind of tend to fluctuate. So I'm thinking that depending on who you ask, the size estimates are going to be different. You know, there's always people that want their discovery to be like the biggest and biggest and baddest thing out there, and there's other people that say no, it's actually not as big as we think. You know, they go back and forth. The only real way to figure that out would be to find the rest of the, you know, the tail and more of the animal, which unfortunately I don't think we have right now. Okay. So this is where we'll leave off right now for today. Yeah. Thank you guys for coming in once again to watch me work on the Puru. Definitely stay tuned to our Echoes of Extinction YouTube and all of the other sites that we have to see the updates for the game that are coming out. If you want to check out more of my work, there are links in the description of the stream. I'd really appreciate you checking out my work on Instagram or Blue Sky or any of those other places. I try to be all over as many places as I can. And yeah, thank you all for being here today. And I'll catch you guys next week. Okay? Have a good weekend. See you, everybody.